Greetings again and welcome. If you just watched the Chapter 1 video and you're committed to hours and hours of fun with me, now starting Chapter 2, welcome. We are going straight into Chapter 2. I've had some students who have requested that already, and so I'm going to go ahead and jump in there. And I've printed off my instructions already, and I've downloaded my files, saved them into a Word Chapter 2 folder, so we're ready to begin. Let me close that. And you see here I'm at my IT lab, and I'm going to open up my folder where I saved the files. And my computer is back with its little notification. And as you know, I put them on my flash drive. Here's Word Chapter 2. And I do like to have the instructions open just so that we can kind of look at them. It's worth noting we have more instructions this time. It's Chapter 2. We're a little bolder and stronger. They look long. Looks like we have some typing to do. Honestly, I haven't looked through them yet, but we're going to dive in and we're going to do great. We're going to do great. We've got that confidence. So 19 steps to glory. Here we go. Let's see. And I guess I need to open. I see I've got multiple files there. That one looks like an image. And this first one is the file that we need, dentist. Okay, dentist. And remember, my pretend student name is Betty Baker, and so it begins with the last name Baker. So let's begin with our instructions. I will go ahead and pull those up just so we can keep a checklist. We did step 1. It wasn't worth any points, but we started Word and we downloaded and we did all that. So we're on to step 2, change the capitalization of the recipient, Miss Nancy Lancaster, and update her address to capitalize each word and change the capitalization of the state abbreviation to uppercase. Goodness, all uppercase. I'm going to stop right there. We've got more, but we need to break it down into bite-sized steps. So let's go over here. And it said we need, and we can see this is not how you write a letter. Nancy Lancaster. We need to make sure that Mango Lane is capitalized. She lives in Funville. And of course, you know that the state abbreviation is always capitalized. And so far, so good. Looking ahead, I'm sure they're going to tell us to capitalize her name there, but let's just spot check our instructions. Also capitalize her first name in the salutation. Change the name Dr. Lockwood on the last line of the letter to Mia Grant, and then type this email address on a new line below Mia Grant. It says do not press enter after typing the email address. All right, so let's go back. We know we needed to capitalize her name, and then we scrolled down and it said change Dr. You see when I was selecting it like this, and when I got to the end, do you see how it grabbed the paragraph mark? I'll tell you a little trick, and this is a benefit of watching these videos with me. If I click and you see my insertion point right after B, and you know, hopefully, maybe you don't, that if you use the arrow keys, that moves just one step at a time. Well, if you hold the Shift key down and keep it held down while you press the arrow key, you select. It's a very okay, see it jump again, but I still have my Shift key down and I'm just arrowing back. And so it's a very, very precise way to select. These keyboard commands will help you so much. And they told us to change that to Mia Grant. Now here we do press the enter key, and then we type mgrant 3087 at mymail.net. And they told us do not press the enter key. So we're not going to press it, but we have completed a step. I'm happy about that, and I'm going to save my work. Let's return to the instructions. Step number 3, change the alignment of body paragraphs beginning with on behalf and ending with seeing you on September 11th to justify. And if you're familiar with justify, that means, see how this has a ragged right? In fact, that's what they would call it, ragged right. And if you've ever seen a newspaper, some magazines, things that are in columns oftentimes, it's completely flush on both the right and the left. That's justify. So we're going to see that. We're going to go back to our document. And they told us to start with the paragraph beginning on behalf. So that's this one. And you see it has a ragged right. And we're going to change that. Let's see, change the alignment of body paragraphs beginning with that and ending with seeing you. Okay, let's just look. Seeing you. See how it ends here? Seeing you. Now, I have clicked before here, before the word on behalf. And see my cursor flashing. That's that bar flashing before the O. And without touching anything, no typing, no, just my mouse, I'm going to scroll down. Remember that shift key? Hold your shift key down, and with the shift key held down, click one time after the period in, one time after the period of September 11th, before the paragraph mark. Okay, so what did I do? Again, the magic of the shift key. The shift key, when I combined it with the arrows, allowed me to be very, very precise, one character, one space at a time. Now, combining it with the mouse key. So I clicked, then I held the shift key down, clicked at my starting spot, held the shift key down, kept the shift key held down, clicked my ending spot, let up off the shift key. Make sense? It's all selected. Now it's a very precise way to select. Up here on my toolbar, in my paragraph area, I'm going to click justify. Did I not click justify? I clicked. Oh, I did. I'm sorry. I didn't see it move. Okay, forgive me. Long day of recording. All right. So we have that. I'm going to go ahead and save again. And let's go back to our instructions. Look at this. We're moving through pretty quickly. Apply a right arrow bullet to the paragraph mark under the first body paragraph. I'm going to tell you something, and I'm going to ask for your help. Do you see when you say it says apply a right arrow bullet? I'm going to tell you something about last semester. Last semester, a number of my students reported that they had tried every style of arrow, right arrow that they possibly could to, submit it to the assignment. And no matter what they did, it would not mark it as correct. Well, they reported that to me. I reported it to the publisher, and the publisher fixed it. And as a result of that, you have a better experience. So if you see something like that again, I do give you that 30-point window, so it's not necessarily going to, if you've got a 98, you're going to get 100 when I go to post your grade and pause. But it's just beneficial to report that so that it helps other students, right? Okay, so let's do that. Apply a right arrow bullet to the paragraph mark under the first body paragraph. Type the following items, pressing enter after each of these three, and they're signaling that to us, 3 lines. Do not press enter after the last item in the list. And I actually haven't tested this since they said they fixed it, so this will be a good test of that. Okay, let's go back to the document. I'm thinking about that so much, I'm losing my instructions. Okay. Apply a right arrow bullet to the paragraph mark under the first body paragraph. So under the first body paragraph, I'm going to apply a right arrow bullet. And I'm going to say it's that one. Okay. Type the following. Okay, so we know we have to type this. And the first thing that we're typing is finding hidden toothbrushes in the dental office. We're supposed to hit enter. Participating in the dental crossword puzzle challenge. And do be careful as you type because it does check. And if you misspelled something, a little typo, you get marked off for that and you'll have to correct it. Writing a convincing letter to the tooth fairy. Digging through the dental treasure chest. And it said do not hit enter after the last one. I've done some work. I'm happy with it. I'm going to click on save. I'm going to go back to my instructions. Does that look good? Look at this, already at step 5, moving along. Change the paragraph spacing of the text from the salutation, Dear Nancy, through the last paragraph that ends with seeing you on September 11th to 12-point spacing after. Spacing after. That's important. Remove the paragraph mark just after the Dear Nancy. Okay, so let's go back to our document. We're dealing with Dear Nancy, and I see some paragraph marks there. And it said change the paragraph spacing of the text from, so I'm going to start with Dear Nancy, through the last paragraph. Now I'm going to do my little trick again. I've clicked at the beginning point. I'm using my mouse to scroll down, not my keyboard, but my mouse. And I know that I'm trying to select everything through September 11th. So I'm going to hold my shift key down and I'm selecting. Okay. And my setting, I'm working with these paragraphs. And so I'm going to go to this paragraph and I'm going to click this little, forgot the name for that. Click that little button right there. And spacing after. And here's a little hint for you. See how some of the fields are filled in and some are not. And this checkbox here is neither checked nor unchecked. It seems to have a weird square in it. Whenever the settings are not already filled in, it means that they're different within the items that you have selected. If they're all the same within the items that you have selected, you'll see the value. So since this is neither checked or unchecked, then that means some of what's selected, this applies, and for some it doesn't. And for this spacing after, it's different settings within what we have selected. But they've instructed us to make this 12 space point. And I tabbed to get out of that field and to make sure it kind of set up, so that should be good. And then it says remove the paragraph mark just after the Dear Nancy paragraph. I'm going to click OK. And I see it's spaced out there. That's my 12-point after. And see how there's no, here's where somebody hit the enter key. And then there's a space as if someone hit the enter key. But that's actually the spacing after. Sometimes that happens to us and we don't want it. We want them closer together. And in that case, you would go right back to those settings and you would simply reduce that. Okay? Let's go back up to the top. Now, make sure you have your show characters. Now that this is all spaced out, do you see how it looks weird? Well, it's too much space, right? And they told us remove the paragraph mark. And sometimes in our minds from our English classes, we think of something like this. Let's see if I can get that. We think of something like this as a paragraph. You get what I'm saying, right? Because it's a bunch of sentences. We don't think of an empty place where someone has hit the enter key as a paragraph. But we do refer to that as a paragraph in word processing because we never hit that key until we are at the end of a paragraph. And so we refer to that as a paragraph. So they're telling us to remove this extra paragraph mark. I'm going to hit delete. Now, look at the spacing. Very important. And I will tell you what could happen to some folks. If you selected too much, you might have added space way up here. So don't do that. Make sure you selected starting from right before Dear Nancy. Okay? I've done some work. I like it. I'm satisfied. I'm going to save. And let's go back to our instructions. We're on to step 6. Change the font of Dr. Lockwood Pediatric Dentistry Office in the first paragraph to small caps. Do you know how to do it? Doctor? Why would we do that? The reason that we change things to bold, to italicize, to underline, sometimes we might change the font within a paragraph. We don't do that too much, is to draw attention to it. And that's what we're trying to do here. And so they want to do that with a font that's not readily accessible. It's from a button. It's in this font grouping. And if I want to see more choices within that grouping, I'm going to click there. And this is where I can see my small caps. They preview it for me. These little lines on the side say, think of that as the center, or I'm sorry, in this case, the bottom. And now I can see it as I apply my format. Notice you have all kinds of options and even some buttons down here. All right, click OK. Look at that. Quite nice. Quite nice. Save. Back to the instructions. Step 7. Select the lines of text beginning with date and ending with the Redmond, Virginia zip code. Increase the left and right indents to 1.25 and change left and right indents to 1.25 and change paragraph spacing to 0 point spacing after. Do not deselect the text because we're going to, I guess, do something with that after. Now, I'm just going to tell you, I told you I'm kind of coming into these instructions a little cold. You may say, she doesn't know the textbook. Not true. I just do not memorize all, if you ask me 2 weeks from now, what was step 7? I don't know. Okay, so I don't want to disillusion you, but I do not have everything memorized. This is our, our new text. And my point of saying that is, sometimes I misinterpret what they are telling me. Sometimes you are going to misinterpret what they're telling you. And no worries, because when you upload it and you see the error, you might look at the instructions again and say, oh, I think this is what they wanted. And then you change it, you resubmit, and you get those points. Or when you feel like you've just tried so hard and you're just not understanding what they're asking, then you ask me and I'll tell you. Sometimes I'll do just a short video and say, here's how you do step 7, right? So, and if I've done a long video like this, I'll say, just fast forward to step number 7. Okay, so hopefully that helps. So select the lines of text beginning with date and ending with Richmond, Virginia. So I've clicked. I'm going to hold my shift key down and I'm going to click the Richmond, Virginia. So I have all that selected. Increase the left and right indents. I'm confused by both the left and the right because typically, so this is the first line indents. Here's the left indent. Now, I'm going to try to make this bigger during the video, but I want you to see that there's 3 distinct parts to this symbol that you see here. The first part is this kind of home plate looking symbol, and you'll notice that that is it says first line indent. And let me just demonstrate that to you real quickly. Okay, so this is not in the instructions. When I click in this paragraph, if I put my mouse, this is some precise mouse movement. Do you see how the very tip of my mouse is pointing inside that top home plate symbol? In that configuration, press and drag, now ½ inch over. That is what's called a first line indent. And you'll notice that of this paragraph, what's a paragraph? It's until we've hit the enter key. It indented only the first line. And that, in some cases, is what's required for an English paper, right? Now, I'm going to undo. Oops. Okay. Then I want to I'm demonstrating still. I'm going to point my mouse into this second upside down home plate symbol. And again, do you see how the tippy top of my mouse is pointing to the center of that? It's not, if you get off just a little bit, you'll end up in a different symbol. You'll have the wrong thing. You got to point right there, and you can press and drag, and look what it's doing. Oops, in fact, I got too much because I'm in the wrong spot. I'm going to undo just to make sure. Okay, that was too much undo, so I'm going to redo. And let me come back down here again. Oh, my mouse, I am struggling. Okay, well, I'm not, oh, and I'm doing Control Z. That's the keyboard command for undo. Okay, well, we're going to look at that in a minute. But what I want you to see is this bottom, maybe I can show you this very bottom square left indent. It moves both. It moves both that upper home plate and the lower home plate to indent the paragraph even more so than the margin of the paper. So I'm going to undo that. And you might notice there's another one of these. They're kind of, they're symbols that you would recognize if you've ever used a manual typewriter, because they used to look like this, and they were big mechanical things that you pressed and slid. Okay, and so still remember, now what is selected will be affected. So I've clicked in this paragraph. If I were to move this one, and as I hover over this, do you see how that's the right indent? So if I click and I drag that, do you see how it pulls that in? And sometimes what you'll see in, if you're trying to emphasize something, quote something perhaps, you'll see people indent a certain level. So that was all teaching. Let's get back. Okay, that was one too many. Let's redo. And now let's do what they want us to do. I'm going to click before the word date as they instructed. And I'm going to hold my shift key down, and I'm going to click after the zip code, and I have all that selected. And they are saying to increase the left and right indents to 1.25. So here, this makes perfect sense to me. I'm going to slide this, see the 1 inch mark, 1.25, or okay, so that's a half. And I would say this is half of a half, and that would be 1.25. So I'm going to go to that mark. And then, excuse me, I'm going to come here, and here's 1 inch, right to the 5, and that's 5.5, but, or I mean, I'm sorry, 4.5, but I need to go to 5 3/4. So I'm going to go from here to 5 3/4. All right, does that look good? Well, hopefully I interpreted their instructions correctly. And if not, then we'll have some work to do. They did say do not deselect, so we still have that selected. I saved my work. And it says in step number 8, to the same selection, apply a box border, selecting a double line, and that's going to be the 7th in the list, with a line width of 3/4 point. It's a mouthful. Let's go back to our same text that is selected. Now up here I see some borders, and that's what they want us to apply. But if you look at my button, it looks like a window pane, and that is supposed to be showing you 4 squares. And of those 4 squares, the only darkened line is at the bottom. So if I were to click that button, it would simply put a line at the bottom. And that's not what I want. Also, I have to remember they have some really specific requirements that it's a double line and that the line width is 3/4. So I'm going to click on instead this little arrow next to it. And let's see, I'm going to come all the way down to where it says borders and shading. Okay. Now, first of all, I need a double line, and that I'm going to pick from my lines up here. And this one looks to be a double line, doesn't it? And then it said with a width of 3/4. So as I look down here, and notice that you can change the color. You could have all kinds of fun with this. We're going to make it a little thicker, 3/4 line. Now, they did not specify, oh, it says apply a border box. And that's the one that we have selected here. But over here, here's what I want you to see. Do you see that there is a line not just at the bottom, but all the way around? And if, then that's what we want. But if you wanted to change that, maybe you didn't want these vertical lines, then you would just remove them. See how the picture is changing as I click this button? And you may be wondering, what is this? That would put a line right through the middle. So if you do not want lines through the middle, you just click that to remove it. You know, I cannot help but teach you some of these things because I love it. I just love it so much. I hope I don't mess up my submission by doing this. So hopefully we'll still get 100%, but I hope you enjoy the learning because that's what it's about, right? Hey, look at our box. Yay, we're on a roll. Let's keep going. Okay, so we did step number 8. We're going to continue to step 9. Delete the extra tab formatting marks to the left of the lines containing September 4th and Dr. Lockwood to align them with other text in the bordered area. Delete the extra tab formatting marks. Okay, so we've talked about those non-printing characters. And for example, if I was to print this right now in the printer, I would not see this little dot because that's a space. I would not see if I printed this paragraph mark. That's just where I hit the carriage return. And when we think about tabs, there's really 2 parts to a tab. One is the keyboard, the keystroke, and that's what you're seeing. That's what this is. It's a keystroke on your keyboard. It's the tab key. How did it know how far to go? Well, it knew because it defaulted to a 1/2 inch. Now, later we will learn, maybe later in this document, we'll learn how to set those tab stops because, it's so troublesome when you see people who've gone tab, 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 tab. And then, because what happens is when you change your font, you go from like 10 point to 12 point, or you choose a font that is much larger, then you go, oh, too many tabs, not enough tabs, too many tabs. So we'll learn how to just put 1 tab in there because then that tab will always say, I have to go to a 1/2 inch or I have to go to the 3 inch mark, something like that. Okay, so we're going to learn. But I see all these tabs, I see lots of tab characters in there. And I do see what they're saying, that these things are not aligned. You see with the address down here and how it's not lined up? And if I were to simply click in between there, I could press the delete key on my keyboard. I'm going to arrow down. I'm going to press the delete key on my keyboard. I'm going to arrow down, and I'm going to press the delete key on my keyboard. And all I did is I removed those tab stops. And now my text is lined up with the 2 inch mark there on the ruler. Save. So I think we're moving right along. Did we do all pieces of that? Okay. Now we are to delete the paragraph mark before the paragraph that begins, please call our office. Where do we tell them to please call our, okay. And I see a little extra now that we have that spacing. We don't need that. Delete. My goodness, are we already on step 11? We're about to turn the page on this instructions. Change the paragraph spacing of the paragraph containing Funville to 6 point spacing after. Change the paragraph spacing of the line sincerely to 6 point after spacing before. So 1 is spacing after, spacing before, and even more stuff to do. So let's just break this down 1 step at a time. Let's find this Funville. I think that was at the top, wasn't it? Yeah, there's good old Funville. And it says, let's see, change the paragraph spacing of the paragraph containing Funville to 6 point spacing after. Click that. Remember, here's spacing after. Now, I could click in there and type. You can click the arrows. It went immediately to 6 point. That was its first up setting, so click OK. And we see it's spaced. Do you see the space there a little bit? Okay. Now, what was the next step? Change the paragraph spacing of the line containing sincerely down here at the bottom to 6 point spacing before. Now I can see there's some kind of spacing here. One of the things you get into with spacing is I don't know if this right now has perhaps a wider, like the 12 point spacing, but if you remember, it may not have any spacing because we put spacing after this September 11th paragraph. So this is probably already a 12 point space, and that's because they're spacing after. So you can have spacing after a paragraph and also spacing before a paragraph. So I'm clicking within sincerely, and I'm going back to my setting, and they said in this case They want 6 point before. Okay. Not sure I saw a big difference, but they're probably getting ready to have us change something here. Then add paragraph spacing of 6 point spacing before to the paragraph Dr. Lockwood is pleased to let you know. Okay, so here's Dr. Lockwood is pleased to let you know. I'm just going to click anywhere in that paragraph and go to paragraph. And where did they want it? Before, 6 point spacing. And see how it also already has 12 point below? Okay. There you go. So just put a little space before that paragraph. I'm going to save, and I'm going to return to the instructions. Hey, turn the page. Woohoo! How many do we have? I like to always look at it. 19. Okay, keep going, keep going. Change the font of the entire document to Bookman Old Style. Change the font size of the entire document to 12 point. I love this because you know what you get to do? You come over here and you select your document and you do Control A, and that means all. And it's selected all. I'm scrolling. It's selected all. Control A. Whenever they say select all, you say yay, because you don't have to be real precise. You just Control A and you select it all. And we've selected it all. And I'm so excited I forgot. What are they telling us to do? They said change this to Bookman Old Style. Now you can click and scroll through fonts. That's fine. Something that I like to do because it just is faster is if you click inside there, notice it's selected, which means as I begin to type, it will delete that and replace it with what I type. I'm typing Bookman, and see how it found it? Tab. So once it gets to the font that you want, you just press tab, and that will take you over to the size. And they told us they want the size to be 12, and then you hit enter. How about that? So keyboard shortcuts that make you fast, and you may already know how to apply fonts. Hopefully I'm helping you to be a little bit faster. Okay, step number 13. Here we go. With the insertion point at the beginning of the document, how do we get all the way to the top from the video from chapter 1? Control home. Are you sure that home is home? If your home key is a secondary button, in other words, you have to press the blue key in order to make home, then you might have to say control blue key home, so make sure. But control home is what you're looking for. That's how you get to the top. Insert an online picture using the keyword tooth, and then insert an appropriate image from the results. Select and delete any additional text boxes that may display when the image is inserted. To avoid file size limitations, compress the online picture once it is inserted. Wow, all kinds of things going on here. Let's just start one step at a time here. Let's go back to our document. And they said, I'm going to click because I don't want that selected anymore. I want all the way to the top, control home. See how it moved my insertion point up there. And they said insert an online picture. You have to be patient with these things. My internet connection is slow. It took a while for those pictures to fill in. It will take a while for this search, but I'm undeterred. I'm going to click there. I'm going to type tooth, and I'm going to press the enter key. And since they did not specify, they just said insert an appropriate image from the results, I am just going to select this. Well, maybe he looks happy. I'm going to pick a happy tooth. You could pick a baby tooth. Anyway, pick the tooth. You could pick a dinosaur tooth. I don't know. Let's stay basic. Let's stay basic. I'm going to pick that tooth, and I'm going to click insert. Wow, that's a big tooth. Using the keyword and then insert an appropriate image from the results. Select and delete any additional text boxes that may display when the image is inserted. Do not see any additional text boxes, so I think we're okay there. To avoid file size limitations, compress the online picture once it is inserted. Okay, I hope I don't get in trouble with the My IT Lab grader, but I'm going to teach you a little bit more. Do you mind? Hopefully you don't mind. See how my picture is selected? These dots show me that the picture is currently selected. And another thing that happens when it is selected is at the top I have this picture format menu. And that's the menu that I'm on. And on this far side, do you see where it says crop? And see all this white space? Well, it just takes up too much room and I don't really need it. So I like to crop my pictures. I clicked that button and now do you see that my dots have become these bars, and these bars mean that I can kind of chop. So as I move, watch my mouse as I move it. You see it change into kind of an upside down T? Once it's there, press and drag. And what I'm doing is I'm cutting off that part of the picture that I don't need. And I'm going to do that. I hope it doesn't gripe at me, but I'm going to do that all the way around. Since they didn't tell us the picture, I'm hoping they will not be mad at me for that. Okay, see how it used to take up all that space, and I just don't need all that extra bordering, right? Now that I've cropped it, if I click away onto the paper someplace, then it sets. Now I kind of like that, but I don't think we're not quite done yet. I do need to see my item is no longer selected. I'm going to click it again to select it, and now they tell us to do a little bit more. So I've got the picture selected. Make sure you're on this picture, if this didn't automatically happen, this picture format. And it says position the picture in the top right corner of the document just below the header. Change the wrapping style to square. Okay, so I'm going to drag it. Well, I need to make it, I kind of want to make it small. They say change the height to 1.1. I'm going to do that first. See up here where it says size, and this one is indicating the height, and this is indicating the width. So I'm going to go up here into the height, and I'm going to type 1.1, and I'm going to hit enter. Much easier to work with. Okay, now you can see, and that's going to be important. So now that I have it in that smaller, it said position the picture in the top right corner. So see, my mouse is over my picture, press, and I'm going to drag. I want it to be in the top right corner, just below the header. Well, all it did was change. I'm going to drag it back to this side. I inserted my image, and it's over here on the on the left side, and it confused me for a moment because they said to position the image in the top right corner. Well, that's going to come after some other steps are applied, and I don't think that we necessarily have to do these steps in order, and so I think this is going to be helpful. I selected the image, I clicked picture format, and I changed the height to 1.1, and I pressed the enter key. And then I'm going to change the wrapping style by clicking this button here to square. When I do that, I need to click that again to make it go away. Do you see how the text is flush against that right side? But they wanted us to put the picture in the top right-hand corner. Well, the closest we can get to that is kind of over here. All I'm doing is dragging it. Now, when I drug a minute ago, it stayed in line with the text. I don't want it too far. It stayed in line with the text, just like these these pieces of text, these characters, stay all in a line. And images can do that. And sometimes when they do that, it's very awkward because they cause the text to display in a distorted way. I'm going to teach again, so I might mess up my document. What if I did an insert picture and I said an online picture, and maybe I'll do tooth again. Notice that my image is loaded much more quickly the second time. Hopefully I'll pick something small. Does this one look like a small tooth? Oh goodness, that's a big tooth. With it selected, I'm going to change the size of it to 1.0. Now it's small. Okay. Do you see how the picture is very tall and the text is in line with it? It's not even up here because that would be wrapping. And so a moment ago when we said wrap square, it said find the square border of the image. Notice that the image is not actually the shape that you see. It's actually a square. And the text flowed around that. Well, what that means is that this image is no longer in line with the text. Instead, it's kind of floating a little bit. It's an object laying on the page. And as I start to drag it, now it's in line in the middle. Now it's in line a little further over, right? And so as long as it's floating, I can drag it to the upper right corner. So that instruction was probably a little bit confusing. I'm hoping that this video is helpful. I did delete that extra image. They just wanted the one. Hopefully I didn't mess up my document too much, and I'm going to save my work. Now we're not done with that instruction yet. We have completed some parts. We positioned it in the right-hand corner. We did that after we changed the height to 1.1, and we did that after we changed the wrapping to, and if you don't see this little button over here to the side, if you right-click, I love right-clicking, you'll find wrap text, and then you could pick square. Okay, so lots of options. All right. Apply a picture style of beveled oval black and choose the chalk sketch artistic effect. So first we need a picture style, and I see picture styles right here, and we need something that looks like a beveled oval. You hover over things. Oh, that's it. Bevel oval black. And click that. Isn't that cute? And then we're going to choose an artistic effect. So I'm on this picture format, artistic effect. And what did I want again? Chalk sketch artistic. What looks like chalk? Is that chalk? Chalk sketch. Now, okay, chalk sketch. I just make sure. Oh, how about that? That's looking very cute. I'm going to save that. Did we do everything? You know, use that as a checklist, and I think we finished. That was a big one. That was a big one. Lucky 13, so hopefully that was helpful. All right, at the end of the document, insert a next page section break. Now notice they didn't say insert a hard page, insert a hard manual page break. They said a next page section break. Then in the second section that we're going to create, change the orientation to landscape, the paragraph spacing to 6 point after, and the font size to 14. Whew, okay, we can do it. We can do it. Here we go. We're in our document. I'm scrolling down, and it said at the end. How do we get to the end? We know that Control Home takes us to the tippy top, and Control End, E-N-D, Control End on your keyboard takes us to the very bottom. Now remember earlier they told us do not hit the Enter key after this, but we typed mgrant at mymail.net. So now let's see. At the end of the document, insert. They did not tell us to hit the Enter key. They said insert a next page section. Now, you might be tempted to go to Insert, but this is actually perhaps a little strange under Layout. And under Layout, you look for breaks, and you look for, here it is, Next Page. Insert a next page break and start the new section on the next page. Now, what just happened? Well, if you're not sure, you undo. And I see that I am on page 2 of 2. And if I redo, I see, it took a minute. I see that I'm on page 3 of 3, right? So if I scroll back up, I can actually see this is another non-printing character, the section break. and I'm going to scroll down. Okay, so here's my insertion point, and I think it wants us to begin there, and it says in section 2, change the orientation to landscape. Now, I am going to change the zoom a little bit. I'm going to zoom out because I want you to see this. And what you should see right now is 2 pages that are portrait, in other words, up and down, like you would take somebody's portrait. And we're going to make this one and only this one turn sideways. So here I am after the key to this is the section break. That's the key. Orientation, landscape. Ta-da! One page is landscape. It may be hard to see. And I'm going to zoom way out. Okay, I zoomed way out just so you could see. 2 pages are portrait, but as soon as I get to this non-printable character, which is in this case a section break, then I could apply changes only to that section, and that's what I did. If you're wondering how I'm zooming in and out, I'm holding my control key and I'm using the wheel on my mouse. It's a little tip for you. Okay, so here I am. What have I done? In section 2, change the orientation to landscape, the paragraph spacing to 6-point spacing after. So we're familiar with that, right? We go to paragraph, and we want this to be 6-point spacing after. I'm going to go ahead and close that. And we want the font size to be 14, it says. Okay, good to go. That looks good. Save. Now, in section 2, here's the next step. In section 2, step 15, center the first paragraph, type all this, press enter, type some more, press enter and change the alignment to left. Okay, and then change the font size to 12. So it looks like we're putting in kind of a title here. Let's do that. Here we are. And it says we're going to center, and then we're going to type Wellington Water Park and Slide Fun Day. Press enter and type September 11, 2021. Press enter, change to left align. There we go. Change the font size to 12. Awesome. Save. Back to the instructions. We're getting ready to learn about tab stops and all kinds of fun things. Awesome. Set a left tab stop at 2 inches and a right tab stop at 7 inches. The right tab stop should include a dot leader. And if I turn off my printable characters, you can't see those dots. Have you ever opened a book and there's a table of contents, and when you see something like check-in, there's a bunch of dots that go over to this, and if you've tried to replicate that, you've probably done it by typing dot, 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 dot on your keyboard, and then you change the font, and now you have too many dots, or you have too few dots. The people who do this professionally, you can just set this in Word. You're going to hit the tab key one time. It's going to go over to a designated place on your ruler, and it's going to automatically fill in those dots. Is that not the coolest? That's the coolest. Okay, so we're going to do that. Type the following with the column at the 2-inch stop and the next column at the 7-inch stop. Okay, so we got a little typing to do, and we got to get set up before we do the typing. So let's do that. Here we are at the end of the okay, we did that. Okay, now we're going to set a tab stop. Now, here's something that I want you to, first of all, know. At any time, when you press the tab key on your keyboard, as I mentioned, it defaults. Do you see? Let me go up to the ruler. Oops. Do you see how it's going 1/2 inch or a 1/2 inch? Now, imagine. Oh, never do all that. You don't want to do all that. Delete. If I want to very quickly set a tab, I can use up here in the upper left. Now this might look a little bit like the letter L. It's kind of not, but it looks like it. What this indicates is the vertical line says the tab stops here. And then the bottom line underneath says, and the text flows this away. Okay, so here's the two pieces of a tab. One part you already know, which is that you press the tab key, right? And it defaults to the 1/2 inch mark. Well, unless it sees that you are manually setting tabs. So this is the tab that I can set on my ruler. And let's just pretend, I'm teaching right now. Let's just pretend that I click right here on my ruler at the 2 inch mark. Did you see what happened? First of all, there's a small L there. Remember, it says tab stops here, text flows in the direction of that lower line. So my tab that I pressed a minute ago is no longer stopping at the 1/2 inch mark. That's just a default. Instead, it's flown all the way over to where I set it. And if I begin to type, "My dog has fleas," then it goes in the direction of that lower line there. Okay. Well, my dog doesn't have fleas, so let's get rid of that. Okay, and let's go back to there. Now, that is one of the tabs, and this is a quickie way, and I want you to know the quickie way. If I click this button again, just once, do you see now it looks like an upside down T? But what do we understand about this? We understand that the tab stops here and the text flows underneath. So what if I was about to create kind of a table, and the table was when people were going to work? And so I wanted to create something, you know, where it's like, here's the name, and all the names are centered in that column, and what time are they coming in? 8 a.m., 10 a.m., whatever, and I want all that centered over here. Well, this would be the perfect tab for that. So with that in my configuration, maybe now I click again on the 2 inch mark, and you see my tab, and maybe again I click on, I'm going to say, the 6.5 inch mark. Do you see how I have two of those tab stops? Now, so far I've only pressed the tab key once, and the tab stops here. I'm going to type Stephanie because that's a longer name. And do you see how the word Stephanie is centered? Some text flows to the left, some to the right, just like the bottom part of what looks like the upside down T. Instead of Stephanie, let me do this. Let me say name. And then I'm going to tab again. And do you see how it flew? Not every 1/2 inch. I didn't have to press tab 27 times, just once, and it went all the way over here. And then I could type start time. Whoops, if I can spell. And do you see how it's centered underneath that? Now here's a cool thing. I set those tabs on this paragraph and this paragraph only. If I hit the enter key, it creates a new paragraph in the format that it came from. So it remembers those tabs. Do you see them there? And the cool part about that is now if I press my tab key and I type Stephanie, it's exactly underneath that name column. And if I tab again, I can type 10 a.m. And do you see how fast I am? Tab, 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 tab. You'll be here until 10 o'clock. Everybody else went home at 4:30, right? Hit enter. It copies the formatting that you already have. In other words, the font size, the space after, the space before, the tabs, it remembers all of that as it creates a new line. And then when I tab again, I say, trying to think of a long man's name, and I'm just, how about the only long one that I can think of, how about Ladarius? And then I'm going to tab again, and let's say Ladarius is coming in at 1 p.m. And you see how it's centered? It's nicely centered. So you get the idea of this centering tab. Now, there's one other thing I want to show you, though. You can see the tabs when I'm on this paragraph. If I arrow up one time, you still see the tabs. If I arrow up one time, you still see the tabs. And I want you to think about this. If I arrow up one more time to this date, will you still see those tabs? No, because they were not created on that line. and that line is not a copy, does not have the formatting. It was not created in the image of one of these paragraphs that had it. Okay, starting to see? I'm going to select a lot of this and delete it. I'm just teaching, so you just watch, don't get stressed. And I don't want this secondary tab anymore. You talk about some mouse skills. Get your tippy-toppy mouse pointer pointed at that upside down T and click and drag it off the ruler. 9 times out of 10, I'll accidentally create another tab because you know, and I know, that when you do that, when you click, it creates another tab. And so to click and drag off, sometimes undo is your friend. If you make too many, just undo. So I deleted those tabs. Click again. Well, this is a backwards L, right? A minute ago we had L, now we had backwards L. What do you think this is going to do? Click. We know it does that. Which way is the text going to go? Which way is the text going to flow? The tab and then the text in line with that underbar. If I'm gesturing backwards, I apologize. I didn't think about that until right now. Hopefully it will you will be able to translate there a little bit. Okay, I don't want that. I'm going to just undo. And one more. This looks like that upside down T, except it's got a dot on it. Can you see that? This is for money. Have you ever had that where you have one person donates $500, one person donates $5.32, and it all kind of looks the same? For example, I've hit the tab key one time there and I type $500, right? And then I tab again and I say $5.32. And I look like I'm the big spender in the same way that somebody who donated $500, right? And then, it's just all kind of wacky. And if I say, well, somebody actually donated $5,000, I mean, if I look down the fives, I don't expect it to be lined up that way. If I donate $5 million, this is kind of hard. If I was going to add those numbers up, it gets a little strange because the alignment is not what we're used to with numbers. So, do that. What this tab does, I'm going to, I'll just click right here at 1.5, and I'm going to type $500. So far it seems the same. Kind of is. I'm going to tab again, and I'm going to type $5.32. What just happened? Did you see it? $5,000.32. I'm trying to let you see what's happening. The tabs look like they're all different sizes. What's controlling that? 5, and I am typing the commas, and no cents. Here's what you're seeing. The tab, as always, goes over to the vertical mark. The text is, in this case, not centering. It's going to move to the left until you type the decimal. The decimal is going to anchor at that tab stop, and then the cents, the pennies, anything after the decimal, is going to move to the right of that decimal. And that helps us understand the order of magnitude for these numbers a little bit better. So I wanted you to see that. I don't want to just breeze by that. So many things here, and we'll get to all these things one at a time. I did want you to see they cycle through. So as you click on these, you can just kind of keep clicking. I'm not going to go through all those. Those are the main ones that I wanted to talk about. I want to just get back to what looks like an L because that's kind of the default. And I'm going to delete those. And let's go back to our instructions. That was a little learning lesson there in our grader. So we need to go to the tab stops, and those affect the paragraph. So I'm going to click on this. And you may not notice it in this window here, down towards the bottom, there's a tabs button. Easily overlooked, very easily overlooked. And they said they want to set a left tab stop, look at that, left tab stop at 2 inches. And look at that, here's the default, 1/2 inch. You could change that. But under tab position, I'm going to type 2. I guess I could put 0.0. I think actually you can just put 2 and then quotes, which is the symbol for inches. The right tab stop. Oh, okay. And I've got that. Now, you might do this. Caution, caution. Set. I get tempted to click OK. Don't click OK. Click Set. Now, you see it down here? That's what made it happen. And then they want us to set a right tab stop. But this one they want to be at 7 inches, but don't press anything yet because it says the right tab stop should include a dot leader. And these are your leaders down here, and this number 2 is the dot. So that's going to make dots. Okay, and then set. Okay, see, I'm about to hit OK. Hit set, and then OK. Now, oh, I need to undo for a minute because I did that on the wrong line. Undo, undo. So I have no tab stops. I don't see any on my ruler. I'm going to hit the enter, and I messed up. I need to go here, and I need to make sure I change that to 12. I was talking too much. I apologize, but again. So let's just do it really quickly again. Paragraph. Now that we know what we're doing, no problem. Tabs, 2 inches, and that's left and set. 7 inches, that's a right tab stop with a leader set. Okay. Now we're back on track, and they want us to press tab, and they want us to type check in, hyphen in, tab. Look at that leader line, so cool. 9, and then enter. And I feel like there should be a space, extra line underneath there, but I'm going to pretend I don't see that. And I'm just typing from the instructions. And lunch at the pavilion. Let me spell correctly because it'll get me. And do you see that right tab working? Sometimes when you're trying to type, you miss what's actually happening. And I don't want that. 12. And then what do we got? Bungee. 12. And then what else do we have? Water slide. This sounds like a fun thing. Maybe we should go here. Parent pickup at the gate. 3:30. Does that look good? Okay, they told us to type that. They did not say anything about pressing the enter key. So I believe that we are done with that step. Whew, right? We're good. We're good. Almost done. Format the text, Wellington Water Park and Slide Fun Day on page 2 as a word art with style gradient fill. Wow. And purple accent color. Goodness, a lot going on there. An outline, purple accent row. Change the wrapping around that. Okay, so one step at a time. Let's go back, and it says Wellington Water Park Slide. So here's Wellington Water Park Slide Fun Day. Now it's grabbed that paragraph mark. I'm not sure that that it should include that. So I'm going to hold my shift key down and arrow back one time so that I have only that text selected. And I need to, it says format this as word art. So I'm going to click on insert, and over here in text, I'm going to click on word art. And you have to kind of hover over these, but it does tell us gradient fill, and we're looking for purple, This one looks purple. Okay, come on. Gradient fill purple, accent color 4, outline purple, accent color 4. So I think that's it. Oh, yeah, it even says second row, third column. So, okay, should have kept reading. Change the wrapping style. Now, do you notice that this is inside of a box? It's no longer inline text. This is now very special. It's an object and it's floating. It's kind of above the text in some ways, or at least we could make it so, just like we did earlier. So we have these layout options. Also, you can right click, but if you see this button, then, and if you right click, you don't want to right click inside. Do you see the difference in the shape of my mouse? It's an I-beam inside here, and that means click to type. If I click there, I'm going to get my flashing cursor and I'm going to type, and that's not what I'm trying to do. So oftentimes when you're trying to select an object like this, you move your mouse to the border, and you see how my mouse is configured. There's some very precise mouse movements in this. This is something, sometimes it takes a little practice. What do you do if you mess up? You undo. Undo is your friend, right? So here we are. I'm going to change the layout, and they want it, change the wrapping style to top and bottom. So that kind of looks like this. Remember, you pretend that the arc is your picture and the blue is, like your text, so top and bottom. No real change, saw a little bit of an adjustment, but as we would continue to work, it would keep the text separated so that as we type, things are either above it or below it, but not on the sides, okay? So let me save that. And the font size of the word object to 24. Now, an important thing there is I had the entire object still selected. Drag to center the object horizontally on the first line. Now this is tricky because we need to get our mouse just over that edge. And see how I have the shape of my mouse? Press and drag. And you see I'm manually centering, and I'm sorry, it says drag to center the object horizontally on the first line. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm looking at my ruler and I'm trying to remember. Okay, let's just look at the paper. That's the best thing. That looks good to me. I'm terrible at that. I'm going to undo this, but I'll tell you how I do this in real life. In real life, if I wanted that centered, you have to remember that there's no coloring in the background. And sometimes when there is coloring, you see the coloring stretch completely across. I'll tell you why they do that. Because the easy way to center is to pull that box all the way to both edges. And since the text is centered and the box expands across the entire page, then the text is automatically centered across the page. So that's a little professional cheat for you there. But that's not what they asked for. Undo, undo. They want the box centered. So, just eyeball that and do your best on that. Save. Okay, I think that was everything. That was a big step. And don't stress on this, folks, because, what if you were a little off? What if it does dock you a point? As long as, if you're at a 98, you've got 100. If you're at a 96, you've got 100. If you're at a 75, you've got 100. Now, if you're at a 75, there's probably some things that you don't know how to do that you need to look up. But if it's something because you haven't centered it correctly, please don't lose sleep over that, right? You have that window to work with. Okay, here we go. 18, it's the last really big step. No material for public distribution should contain errors. You should check for and correct any spelling and grammar mistakes because it speaks to professionalism and influences how patients perceive Dr. Lockwood and his staff in the dentist office, and that's true. Ignore the suggestions for Funville and include any other suggestions on your computer. Okay, let's go back and let's go to our document. Now, in the Chapter 1 video, I gave you a tip for very quickly going to spell check. Did you watch it? Did you watch it? Okay, first of all, We want to start spell check from the very top. How do we get to the very top? Control home, control home. My cursor's at the very top, okay? And then whenever we're finalizing a document, think of it as you're reviewing it. And in previous versions of Word, you would see a gigantic spell check button over here. And one of the reasons I like to tell you keyboard shortcuts is because when you see changes like that, if you know the keyboard shortcuts, then you don't have to hunt through new menu design changes. The tip that I gave people last time is, and this is another thing, you don't have to, if you don't know the keyboard shortcut and you're saying, how do I do that? Go up to that search box. But what it showed us last time, and you can learn from the search box as well, is editor is kind of the new spell check. The keyboard shortcut, by the way, F7, F7, okay? And you can see it's telling me that there, but click editor and zip pow. I mean, it went through and it said it's got some spelling errors. So let's find that spelling. Well, it told us to ignore Funville, so I'm going to ignore that. I could ignore all, but that's fine. What was my second one? Oh, there's a grammar. Some of the exciting activities that I know you will enjoy include. I don't see anything wrong with that. Notice it's got a double underline. It says double check the form of the verb. Oh, no, it doesn't understand the sentence correctly, so that's a bad suggestion. I know you will enjoy including. Oh, some of the exciting activities that I know you will enjoy include. Maybe there could be a comma. I don't think. What did they tell us? Ignore the suggestions for Funville. Oh, I read that wrong. I said ignore the suggestions for Funville and include any other suggestions. It's not what the instructions say. They say ignore the suggestions for Funville and include, comma, and any other suggestions on your computer. So I'm going to ignore all that. See, you guys keeping me straight here. Okay. In class, y'all would be yelling at me, and I wouldn't have made that mistake. You would have told me I was wrong. Okay. So what else? That was it. That was that whole instruction. Now, it does remind us to save the file. Hopefully, you've been doing that as you go. I'm going to tell you, I do not claim to be perfect. I might have some errors. Oftentimes, when I talk too much and I start demonstrating too much, I create some little problems in the document that my IT lab identifies. I hope that's not the case, but let's see. So I'm going to close, and I'm going to go back over here and down to my Word Chapter 2 and Dentistry. I've downloaded. We don't need to preview the steps. I'm going to choose the file. Notice that, and see, this will get you, because in your head you'll say, there it is right there, and you'll submit it, and you'll say, I know I did all that work and it marked me wrong on everything. Wrong file happens all the time to everybody, including me, okay? So you got to look, where did I save that? Not in the Word 1 folder. I saved that in the Word 2 folder. Now it'll remember this, each time I go in and out, and I enjoy that until I move on to Word 3. And then I have to remember to make sure that I'm uploading the correct file. Should have my last name on it, should have the chapter in there. And Word, by the way, as we get into Excel, you might accidentally end up in a Word folder that you're uploading. So double check. Upload. Wait for the success. Success. Submit. That was very fast with the grade, and it's not 100. Oh no, that's terrible. I might have to go back and change this. How to earn 100%. How to earn a 97.7%. Oh goodness, that's terrible. Let's not quit just yet. Okay, let's just see what we did. Hopefully it's something easy. I'm going to click on the three dots, view submissions. We shall not be defeated. Click on submissions again. Well, I started out good. Once I got talking, I probably did all kinds of crazy things. Oh, I see the red. Let's just see, is that the only red? Just one thing. I think I know. Oh, no, okay. Select the lines of text beginning with date and ending with the Richmond, Virginia. Increase the left and right margins. Let me expand this. I'm trying to research my error, and I think I know, let's see, what exactly did I miss? I got part of it. Other actions in the instruction were performed correctly. But it says in the paragraph beginning with date and ending with the zip code. Oh, the spacing after was not set to 0. Oh, that is part of the instruction, and I missed it. So hopefully you are better than me, but that's okay. Let's do this. I'm going to click on back, and I'm actually going to go back to course materials because we're going to have to resubmit it, but I don't have to download again. Okay, let's go back. I'm just getting ready for when we submit again. And we're going to open that again. So I open my document, and the part of the step that I missed, is down here. Select this, and I was supposed to change the space after. Let me double check to 0. And I missed that, and the grader caught it. It does look, I wondered why it was 2 pages. Sometimes when you see a letter run off to 2 pages, and I really should have stopped and thought about that. So I didn't. It's my mistake. This is where in chapter 1 I said sometimes you really have to say, what could I have possibly done wrong? And I should have done that with this, and I didn't, and so it slipped by. Hopefully this is going to fix it. When I first saw that it was not 100%, the thing that immediately popped into my mind was that I did forget, as we talked about this image, they suggested that we should compress the image to save space, and I didn't do that. So I want to show you how to do that. You click the image, picture format, and it's just this little button up here. Now I'm going to click that, and I want you to see what the image looks like now. Apply only to this picture. Okay, delete the cropped area. Remember, I already did that, and so I want to go ahead and throw that away. And I have an option for, did it tell me to use the default resolution? I don't know. That's still good quality. What if I did use the default resolution? Okay. Did you see any difference? Here's undo. Here's redo. The answer is no, that hopefully you didn't see any difference. Here's what I want to explain to you. Pixels, when they are spread out, okay, if you have, light bulbs can be pixels. And so when they're really big and spread out, then pictures tend to look kind of grainy. When you push them together, when you fill in this, don't push them together, when you fill in this space with more and more and more pixels, 1080 pixels, 4K pixels, then you have, it's a much bigger file, and it can be really big. Well, if you throw those pixels away that you filled in with, and you just made the image smaller, then it still looks good because the pixels are close together. But you're saying to me, yes, but the picture is smaller. Correct. This is already a picture that we reduced from being this big to 1 inch, right? So all those pixels that were needed to make a really big picture, we don't need those. You have experienced this and probably been annoyed by it. When you go to a web page and somebody has taken this beautiful picture with their phone that takes 4K pictures, or their camera that takes 80 bajillion thousand pixel pictures, and you're on your internet and you're waiting for the picture, and it's this much downloaded, and now it's this much downloaded, and the picture is really not even anything you want to see. It's just a background picture, and now it's this much downloaded, and it's this much. And if they had compressed the picture and thrown out all those pixels that they didn't need, just a background picture anyway, then it would have downloaded very nicely. And a lot of times people will say to you, but I did reduce it. I grabbed the handles of the picture and I resized it. Resizing and compressing are two different things. Compressing throws away those pixels, and that makes for a smaller file size. That's an important concept that not a lot of people understand. Because you're in class with Dr. McGrory, now you know. So let's save that. And I'm going to close that again. I want my 100. Am I going to get my 100? Make sure I get the right Word, folder 2. Make sure that I've got the dentist file. This is me, Betty Baker. Upload. Wait for success. Only after you see success, submit. Harbinger of success. Now, it blinked, it acted like it updated, but I still see one attempt. So I don't quite know yet. We could kind of sit here and wait, but sometimes you can go ahead and get the answer if you click on the 3 dots, click on View Submissions. How many submissions? Unlimited. Now, woohoo! We got our 100. We got our 100. And so we're going to go back over here and we're going to say that we advertised correctly. How to earn 100% on Grader 2, the hard way, which is also the best way because you learned a lot. So thank you, folks. I'm going to sign off because I appreciate your patience and time, but I hope you enjoyed. This is our class together. So I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks.